And this series should be just as close.
Yes, Steve. Well, we're looking at the world's #1 and #3 in action, and both teams putting out very similar lineups to that they fielded in 1991. So it promises to be a fiercely contested series.
Yeah, we're very anxious to meet Jamaica tonight. I think it's been a while since we've been beaten as an international team, and I know that every country out there is dying to beat us, so we'll have our guards up, ready to keep up our tradition.
I'm excited, and I know for a fact that we're going to display some excellent playing. We have a fairly young team, but I'm sure, you know, that we can go there and just of what our coach is expecting of us and of what we are expecting of ourselves. And I know that Australia will get, you know, 3 excellent games.
We expect a very exciting game. They're great athletes, and it'll be aerial and I hope unpredictable, so that we can get in there with our disciplined play and win.
I think the styles of both our games are so contrasting. I'm expecting a very, very exciting netball game. I think for my girls, I think it would be an opportunity for the younger girls to enhance their talent to play against the #1 team in the world.
These teams last met late last year when Australia had 2 relatively easy wins in Jamaica. But those results may not be a good guide to this 3-test series.
No, for that series, Jamaica were without several of their experienced players, amongst them their captain, Marva Lindsay, and their gun shooter, Patricia McDonald. Yet at the World Championships, that's when they last met at full strength, and Jamaica then, very nearly the giant killers, losing to Australia by only 6 goals.
The Perth Superdrome is the venue, and as of this afternoon, only 100 or so tickets remained unsold, so a near-capacity crowd. And the comments from Marva Lindsay and Maureen Hall perhaps understating Jamaica's potential to beat Australia, Anne.
Yes, I think so, Steve. I've listened to that type of comment from Maureen during many areas of the press during the week, and I think, yes, she's underestimating the firepower there. They've got 7 players from the 1991 World Championship lineup, so there is experience there, and that lineup, as we've said, ran very close to Australia 2 years ago, so I think it'll be a great battle, and I know that deep down they'd really like to take the match.
Patricia McDonald in shot there, but let's check the Australian lineup first of all, and Vicky Wilson picks herself at goal shooter. Katrina Wagg joins her in the scoring role. Sue Kenny, the vice-captain at wing attack, although often at goal attack at club level. The tough choice was in the centre court between Carissa Dalwood and Shelley O'Donnell, and coach Joyce Brown is plumb for O'Donnell. Kath Harvey at wing defence, we'll talk about that later. Michelle Filkey, goal defence, and Keely Devery at goalkeeper. Jamaica's attacking spearhead is Patricia McDonald, all 190 centimetres of her. Alongside her is Connie Francis, 20 centimetres shorter. Anne-Marie Grant, perhaps, well, she prefers to be known as Winsome. Karen Clark at centre. Marva Lindsay, the skipper, is at wing defence. Carleen Hamilton and Oberon Pitterson are the circle defenders. And we're all set now for a start. And the game to be under the control of Colleen Bond from New Zealand and Brenda Prince from Trinidad Tobago. Shelley O'Donnell to take the first centre pass for Australia when they can find a ball. Here it comes. And away we go. Sue Kenny getting an early touch. Wagg leading out from the circle, and we'll look for Wilson. And Australia make quick work of the first goal. And talk in the last couple of days that Simone McInnes, who we've grown to expect to be at wing defence, has been a little unwell. Touch of the flu.
Yes, Simone has had the flu during the week. By the same token, Catherine Harvey's been running very nicely on wing defence, so it's credit to her in her first outing in front of an Australian crowd.
Patricia McDonald getting the first for Jamaica. Cricket, as she's universally known through netball circles.
The screen then offered by Katrina Wagg, but the ball goes through Vicky Wilson. Steve, I think Joyce Brown's comment was interesting, and I guess it's what we watch for throughout the game. The flamboyance of Jamaica versus the accuracy and the discipline of the Australians.
Yes, if they're going to put in the high balls like that to Patricia McDonald to make use of her height, they still have to be extremely accurate, and that one wasn't accurate enough.
Well, the point is, well fed, she's pretty well unstoppable. But the passes have to be placed very well, and any that drop short, the elevation of Devery and Filkey will steal.
Australia creates the break. 3-1 up after a minute and a half. And Wilson is accurate. 4-1. Karen Clark sent a pass for Jamaica. Winston Grant, Connie Francis. 30 today, the birthday girl.
That's a better placed ball from Winston Grant. The struggle for Jamaica is to work the ball down to the circle because there's a lot of pressure from Australia defensively through the mid-court. And I think our own touch of flamboyance through Harvey and Filkey.
I'm sure Kath Harvey wasn't expecting to get the call up to wing defence when she cracked the 7. She'll happily pull on any bib, I think, to be in the Australian lineup.
Oberon Peterson having a hands full with Vicky Wilson. There's the mobility and the height, and she certainly won't be able to play her from behind all game, which is what she's doing at the moment, playing from the back position.
Kenny to Wag. O'Donnell.
And Wilson was working the baseline, but she came off that then as Wag tumbles over the body. Harvey very quick to get to that low ball.
Collected quite a heavy knock from Winston Grant, but it's quickly up and off.
That's an obstruction call on Carleen Hamilton. Leaves her buddy Peterson with 2-on-1.
Well, Wag and Wilson are nowhere near as tall as Crick and McDonald at the other end, but they do have a height advantage over the two defenders in Hamilton and Peterson. Hamilton 175 centimetres, Peterson 178. Wilson and Wag are both 184, 183.
And again, we see Australia first to the ball. Francis late coming through onto it, but as Filkey's all the way. And what a great ball to Katrina Wag. Couldn't wish to be closer to the post. Harvey with the pass finds Kenny, and she sees Wag, the flying kangaroo, on the base. Great take under the post.
So the first quarter just getting away from Jamaica. Australia out 7-1. Wilson.
Another nice roll from Wag. She's using the base well. Just too much force from the fingers on that shot. Wag with 2 from 3. Wilson 5 from 6.
Hamilton with a rare rebound. Toss up. Francis and Filkey. And it finds its way to Wag and straight to Wilson. And doesn't count.
Well, that may have gone another way under a different whistle. The contact comes against Wag as Wag was running the base. Peterson came off Wilson and jumped in a pathway, and from Brenda Prince did pull a contact.
Oh, the straight ball to Connie Francis.
Debbie very quick to get over the low release of Francis, but she finds McDonald. McDonald with a second.
They need a few on end to keep in touch with Australia. The feeling if they're not within range at half-time, it could blow out. McDonald, round and round and down. Five minutes gone, 7-3 Australia. Wilson, Kenny. He handed it straight to Marva Lindsay.
A lot of chopping on the arms. Those last couple of drop passes were from contact on the arms.
Delightful shot from Wag. Karen Clark advances it to the transverse line. Lindsay takes it. Francis. Joyce Brown there. Simone McInnes on one side. Carissa Dalwood on her left.
And a toss called by Colleen Bond.
Devery and McDonald. And Colleen Bond nearly won the toss-up in the end. And the contact against Devery. So McDonald, it's a quick shot. Too quick, maybe.
Very tough to get up to that high ball if you're in the back position. Up they go. And that was, even that pass to Cricket was not a good one. It was very low flying. She really had to put the hands down to grab it. Good speed from Wilson. It's Australia's speed and accuracy that really have the heads turning here in the Jamaican defence.
Wag Clark.
And Australia very quick to get hands over the ball, even down in this third. Shelley O'Donnell working to hold the ball up so it doesn't run down too quickly on Devry and Filkey.
Wilson, Kenny, O'Donnell in the corner. Marva Lindsay fell into the circle. She was offside. But what's the call now?
Pass is offside, so it has to be taken by one of the shooters.
Wag for 9-4. 7 minutes gone, first quarter. Karen Clark restarts. Shortest player on court at 160 centimetres.
Filkey having a good look, but just flipped the body. You could see she had eyes up, saw the pathway. Karen Clark trying to cheat a few centimetres closer for the feed. Well slammed by Devry. She knew it was going to go to Patricia McDonald.
Clark with the restart. Francis. High ball for McDonald. They've steadied Jamaica.
And watch here, we'll see the brilliance of Devry, but no, the pass, too good.
(10-5), halfway through the first quarter. Winsome Grant. And Australia contesting everything. Hands up. Francis,
one-handed possession. It's important to note that you don't have to have two hands on the ball to have possession acknowledged. And that was certainly Patricia Cricket McDonald's. Jamaica, though, struggling, Steve, to make ground down court, such as the pressure put on by the Australian mid-court.
Touch on it from Averon Peterson. Maureen Hall, Jamaican coach, played in the 83 World Tournament in Singapore. I guess you played against her, Anne.
Yes. Sooner or later, I've played against a few. They just keep getting younger, Steve. I can't work it out.
Don't you hate that?
Yeah.
Filkey, the restart. Kenny, Wilson.
We have to say, if we're going to make comparisons, Steve, this is the fittest and the fastest Australian lineup we've had. Few training techniques and a very committed lineup. And the backup there from Kenny.
Wag, great job to keep that in.
And those bottle green kangaroos certainly are flying around this court. Wilson trying to give Peterson the chance to recover. She must move 3 feet away from the person in possession.
Oberon wasn't in a hurry.
And watch the juggling of the hands. Wag offloads. Kenny's the backup. Wilson's there.
Australian intercept at the other end, so here they come through. Harvey, O'Donnell, Wilson again. Just anticipating that with Jamaica playing a much more lateral game, it's going to give the Australian interceptors like Harvey and Filkey opportunities to create the turnovers.
Well, you only get away with that sort of lateral movement to the ball or away from the ball if your opponent doesn't have speed. But the Australians all have speed as part of their repertoire, so they can cut off the angle of that type of pass.
Wag for 12-6. And it's settled down at about 2 goals for 1, and that's a worrying ratio for the Jamaican bench.
Brenda Prince clearing the centre for the retake.
Kenny, Wilson, and that pass to the circle is pretty easy. Time called. Is it, who's got an injury?
Looks to be the Jamaican skipper, Marva Lindsay, who's called time. Karen Grant just adjusting a knee brace. Karen Clark, sorry.
Well, they've settled a little, but it's very much Australia's game at the moment. They started at top speed and haven't changed down.
No, very fast, but the most important feature is the accuracy, and there's a lot of movement, and Australia knew that they would need to put movement out to keep the Jamaican heads spinning in defence, and I think they're doing that well. Jamaica's struggling to make ground down court, not comfortable in linking player to player, and although Patricia McDonald is the spearhead of the attack, they need to link it down far enough to be able to place it to her, and that's what they're not getting going smoothly now.
Well, Michelle Filkey with Keely Devry and Kath Harvey there. The Australian defensive trio should be happy with their work through the first 10 minutes.
I'm sure Keeley would be very keen for the rest of the line to put the pressure on defensively so that it doesn't open up in front of her. She's not left standing there facing cricket. 1-on-1.
Marva Lindsay back on. It's hard to say just who was injured there. I don't think they've made a change, or have they? Wilson. Wag with the rebound.
Wilson out of play for a contact in her efforts to rebound.
Still the same 7 for Jamaica. Winston Grant. Nice aerial skills, but a loose pass and not quite kept in by O'Donnell. So Jamaican ball.
2-on-1 on Patricia McDonald back in the circle. And the Australians are everywhere in defence.
Donald, Wilson.
And a bit of a push in the back of Wag as she stretches for the ball.
And Brenda Prince wants a toss-up. Spills out to Marva Lindsay. And contact against Kenny. So here come the Jamaicans.
Lindsay holding space well around the circle edge, using the circle well. And they both go from, well, they start from the front. Filky tries the back just at the last minute, but it's not just the height of Patricia McDonald, Steve, it's the arm length and the hand span.
Well, she's a professional basketballer in Japan. She lists as her job. She spends 10 months of the year in northern Japan. But they've managed to get hold of her for this series. Touch on the ball from Devry. Most of the Jamaicans do play basketball at some level. Marva Lindsay is on a basketball scholarship in Georgia. Wilson, 13-8.
And another great move here from the Australians will catch Oberon Peterson with a head spinning. Wilson sharp on the baseline.
Francis in for McDonald. Touch on it from Devry.
And last off McDonald, so Devry with a throw-in. Interesting that McDonald chooses to stay back and work the ground and doesn't work over that backline throw-in. You would think with her arm span she could put good pressure on Devry for that throw-in.
And Shelley O'Donnell crashing into our ball manager.
And showing off the new uniform, I must add, with that flying kangaroo. Appropriately placed, and that's all I'm saying.
Francis. Some of the Australian under-21 players there. Nicky Marshall. Wilson. Oh, it wasn't a perfect pass, but Wade was first to it. And in the end, given straight to Oberon Peterson. And they can play the direct game if they want to, Jamaica. This is quick passage to the goal.
Well, that's interesting because it was Australia who was entertaining with the hands and Jamaica who played the direct play then, so they've just reversed roles for a moment. And isn't it interesting how quickly the gap has closed? Only
That's
three
right.
the difference now.
At 7-1, it was looking embarrassing for Jamaica. Back to 13-10 and in possession, a minute and a half out from the first break. So turned this into the contest that we expected and hoped.
And Jamaica with 3 players sitting out in the feeding role. Connie Francis as the third feeder puts it up to McDonald. And it's Francis who'll deliver to her shooting partner, McDonald. Again, a low approach.
A loose pass from Kenny has handed it back to Jamaica, and they're a confident side, as are all the Caribbean teams. Once they get a roll on, they're hard to stop. They really lift. McDonald, too tall for Devry. And it's back to 1. Simone McInnes applauding the Jamaicans. I don't know how Joyce Brown... Well, it's good sportsmanship. I know that Joyce Brown feels is magnanimous. So Jamaica looking for the leveller here, having trailed all quarter, timing the run nicely. The timekeeper will be out of a seat in a moment. Up for McDonald. Oh, Francis will take the rebound. I think that was slapped back to her by McDonald.
I think Filky actually put the slap back to Francis, and so we might credit her with that feed.
13 all, and we've got a contest.
I don't really want to give Jamaica a sense of the win because often it's been a pretty common opinion that they haven't had the heart or known how to win if they're from behind and how to stay in the contest.
Wilson. And the timekeeper's up now, so Jamaica will have to make a very quick run to the circle to get in an equaliser. And they won't. But that was a very entertaining and, well, changeable first quarter. Australia started in great fashion, but were then caught.
Well, they really snuck through on me. I was sitting back enjoying the skills of Australia, thinking, well, they've really got this under control, and within a breath, it was only 3 the difference. I think you can understand, though, that it will take Jamaica some time to get the measure of Australia, different style of play, and to get a feel for this international series. I mean, they're really only 2 days in the country.
A great test match on our hands here. Australia leading at quarter time, 14-13.
Lucky seat numbers.
Well, it was really just a few loose passes that let Jamaica back into it, and they treasured possession once it was given back to them.
Yes, I think the last 4 minutes of the first quarter showed Jamaica with a stronger sense of maintaining possession. They really couldn't penetrate the Australian defence through the middle for most of the quarter, but I think just getting a feel for the game now, getting used to the speed of Australia, and far better at working the ball down to the circle and using Francis more, their goal attack in the last few minutes, as a feeder.
Maureen Hall, demonstrative in her address at quarter time. And the Australian shooters, Wilson and Wag, Vicky there in the foreground, have done most of what's been asked of them. When it started to break down, Anne, where did you feel it was happening?
Well, I think there were just a couple of loose hands, and it was probably sweat on the hands more than anything. We've seen some delightful use of the hands by Australia, and the couple of turnovers, I think, came through Susie Kenny's hands, which are usually the surest you'll see on court, and really the hands of a magician. But one slipped from her hands, the next one, I think, came there as well. And it just opened up a little bit more across the transverse line and approaching that Jamaican circle. Have to credit the shooters, both very accurate for Australia. And when we look at Jamaica, Francis, no misses, but McDonald with all the opportunities.
Eavesdropping on Maureen Hall.
I think the word I heard then was aggressive, really wanting the ball, and I think perhaps they were tentative to start.
So the players talking it up too as they come back on court. 3 minutes, they get at quarter time. For the sake of the series, I'm delighted that the Jamaicans have shown such resilience after copping a pounding early in the quarter. Shooting stats from the first quarter. I don't think 9 from 11 is 99%, but...
No, but 9 from 11 is good. It's not 99, but only 2 misses is good accuracy under the pressure of playing the world's number 3. And Katrina Wag with only 5 from 7 too. Cricket McDonald, she's put up 9 from 11 also, and Connie Francis 4 from 4. But just as we said, lapsing into the feeding role towards the end of the first quarter.
Francis, McDonald, and it kindly drops.
And she's happy, that big smile from Patricia McDonald that the crowd's come to love. She certainly is a favourite. Well, that's a little late from Winston Grant.
7 of the squad that they brought here, as you mentioned, Anne, were at the Worlds, and 5 of the starting 7 were here in '91 as well. So they're not as inexperienced, I think, as Maureen would like to have us believe. But certainly Winston Grant. This is her first tour.
Susie Kenny putting the ball up, and the foot caught behind Wilson. Shoe off.
It's Oberon Peterson. She's fine. And we'll take the restart. Out to Hamilton. Marva Lindsay.
No, it's interesting, Steve. I, at one of the receptions, spoke to Patricia McDonald and said, well, how do you feel about playing Australia? Oh, we want them, she said. So she hasn't been reading the press.
And gathers her own rebound quite easily. And another big smile, 15 all. And she's enjoying it out there. And the Superdome has all but filled now.
Jamaica is such an unpredictable side. You know, over the last 10 years, I've seen series where, particularly a tri-test series between Australia and New Zealand and Jamaica, where they've played nothing netball against New Zealand, almost never open in the match, yet run goal for goal with Australia because that's where their passion lay.
Francis, and they're in the lead. O'Donnell, Filkey.
And now we see Australia trying to gather momentum. Great dodge from Wilson, but Peterson staying just with her and forcing her out wide.
Wag. That's it. Katrina can be nervous under goals at the start of a match, but she's settled pretty well pretty quickly.
I think she's been very strong in this game, and that was a very good shot because it was one that was needed, and it was mid-range. They're difficult.
Cricket McDonald to take the lead back. Well, these teams over the years have met 14 times, and Australia's won 10, Jamaica 2, and there have been 2 draws. And I'm sure Jamaica would love to set about evening up the score.
Well, good touch then from Peterson, stretching around Wilson, and the backup now coming from Jamaica.
McDonald.
Every caught over the foot planted then by Patricia McDonald, and the lunge. I watched them at training the other day, Steve, and the number of bounces they put through to her was amazing, but we haven't seen one yet.
And a loose centre pass, Marva Lindsay, a look of anguish on her face.
Well, that was a chance to make the lead 3.
O'Donnell. Colleen Bond has picked up an offence in the circle.
And she indicated use of the hip. That's a contact call. Wag with the long shot, takes a step in, but offloads to Wilson, who's got the foot anchored near the post. And rarely misses anyway. Only one the difference.
Kenny bouncing through to Wilson, and Wag drives the post on that jump.
Wonderful play.
Perhaps the goal of the game.
Well, this one has everything. Kenny off the line, but they pick up Wag on the run and the layup.
The crowd expressing their disappointment at Jamaica being given possession. And they hang on to a 1-goal lead. And 4 minutes gone, second quarter. Just trying to remember back to that semi-final in Sydney 2 years ago. I know that Jamaica led as late in the third quarter. And of course that was the game in which Sue Kenny got injured and ended up missing the final.
Yes, and I think the other match that really brought the house down was Jamaica-New Zealand in the World Championships, and again similar effect, really had what was the defending champions in trouble.
So they just had Jamaica outflanked all the way down the court there. 19 all, and Jamaican centre pass, so it's with Karen Clark. Francis. Vincent Grant. Grant, the only player not from Kingston in the squad.
Toss-up call between Patricia and Michelle Filkey. Filkey far too quick.
And the high ball to Harvey. Wag, Wilson. A lot more power on the passing from Australia. It's a different style of game.
It's the low line game, using the speed and the shoulder pass. And watch the strength here as Wilson, that's the soft one, but Kenny with the bullet to the post.
Australia suddenly with a chance for a 2-goal lead, and Wilson takes it. Clark, the restart. Oh, the high ball for Grant was a difficult one. He might have got the jump there, but she wasn't pulled up. O'Donnell.
Body's just jumping out at the shooters in the circle. It's not quite as easy, the approach to the circle for the Australians, but they're finding the space. There's just a few bodies coming out now.
Hamilton, back to Peterson. Now Lindsay needs some support. Goes back to find it. Clark. Francis saw collected by Filkey, and that was a fairly heavy collision. They're okay. Nice birthday present for Connie. And with numbers in the circle, they found it pretty easily, and McDonald had to make the rebound, though. 21-20.
Kenny working really well from the line, holding her timing back well. Just running into the body of Marva Lindsay then, but now she finds a circle. Off O'Donnell's foot.
And Lindsay, bump from the back from Kenny, says Colleen Bond. Lindsay again.
And Harvey will have a go. Great touch.
Gets it, yes.
Could see her reading the play, lined it up well back.
She came from a long way back. Wag. Oh. And wins out over Hamilton for the rebound. 22-20. It's a good matchup, isn't it? Marva Lindsay and Sue Kenny, two of the more experienced players on court.
Yes, they're two that can turn the game. But it's intercepts like that last one from Harvey that can really lift a team.
Filkey says she didn't touch it. And
Brenda Prince not buying it.
McDonald.
Steps back to clear some space.
The feeders for Jamaica really haven't sent Patricia McDonald too many hospital passes. The pass and hope style been fairly astute in the judgment with the feeding.
Yeah, they've found her on most occasions. I still don't believe that they placed the ball well to her. I still think there's a lot more elevation they could put and find her on the rise rather than on the ball dropping down. But as you say, they are finding her on most occasions.
Jamaica down by 2. 7 minutes left in the quarter. Francis, here's one of the high balls, and it's well placed. Or did she bounce it out?
It was bounced out by Devry. What she's saying, I can't understand the ruling. It was either that her foot was out and therefore it's an Australian throw-in, or that it was a contact on court. But we'll let that one slide by.
Against Keely Devry, so Francis shoots. Devry was the only one who took up a position for the rebound. Filkey. It's Australia with a chance to establish a little break here. O'Donnell, take the free pass. Wilson, from long range.
Wonderful shot.
Kenny, Wilson, and this quarter not as quick as the first end.
No, I think, as I said before, the body's jumping out now with a little unsureness, and it's really halted the progress from both. There's a lot more body on court than we saw first quarter.
Brenda Prince would like a toss-up between Francis and Filkey.
Filkey just as fast. Francis shakes the head. And they found Wilson very quickly then.
Australia just starting to ease away.
It comes from Filkey's toss, very quick. It's Kenny who will get the ball to Wilson with great speed. Wilson steady.
Off whose hands? At the other end, Brenda Prince says Jamaica's ball. And Francis will take it.
And the crowd laughing because Patricia McDonald putting the hands in the air, sort of the I'm innocent, I've got no room stance. Devry has no sympathy.
Grant.
Devry working hard on front position. Now cricket's exposed.
And she wasn't I didn't think she was falling out of court. Could have had a shot from there, and Francis misses. McDonald with the rebound. Doesn't take too many long shots, does she?
And speed's not really in the repertoire.
Another toss-up.
My money's on Filkey.
Time called.
I don't think Francis really wants to take it.
Who's it for?
I think they want the floor wiped.
And Filkey does take it. O'Donnell quickly to Harvey. They're breaking out with good speed, Australia. Wag. And Wilson. It's for a 5-goal spread. Rebounded by Hamilton.
Good work, Susie Kenny.
O'Donnell in the corner. Wilson got a bump on the way past.
Wilson works the legs hard to find some space. And that's not a bad one under the post.
Joyce with Something to say, and a little applause as the lead hits 5. 4 minutes out from half-time.
Joyce Brown encouraging the Australians to keep it coming and really work that lead. Nice ball from Kenny, opens the circle to the other side for Wilson.
Kelly O'Donnell enjoyed that. And
Carleen Hamilton this time calling her team in as she calls time.
Well, I think Jamaica are pretty cunning with these injury timeouts. I think it's often as much to stop the flow of the game as for an injury. She may have given that left knee a twinge. I got the feeling that's what the first timeout was for in the first quarter, and it did have some effect. Certainly Colleen Bond was anxious to find out just what the injury was.
Yes.
The umpire went over.
And the other thing is there's no access to coaching in these sorts of breaks, so the umpires will be eavesdropping and checking that that's happening.
But there is a positional
but you're wrong
change.
this time.
Yeah, okay, take it all back. And Carleen Hamilton is going to the bench. She does have the left knee with a guard, and so we'll wait to hear who comes out.
Maureen Hall consulting with her captain, Marva Lindsay, checking the preference on combination or switch. Oberon Peterson retying her strap, so it appears she'll stay at keeper. Marva Lindsay not moving, so she'll stay on wing defence. I think it might be Andrea Watson, new to the court for Jamaica.
So it's definitely the knee that's forced out Carleen Hamilton. Over 3 and a bit minutes to go to half-time.
Andrea Watson's the newest addition to the Jamaican team. And this is a test for her, lining up against Katrina Wagg.
So Watson it is, so Donald spills it. And Watson picks it up, and coming from way back was Filkey. Francis.
Harvey doing well to delay Francis's entry to the circle, knowing that Filkey was caught down court.
Nice settling goal for Jamaica. 27-22.
Watson playing well back off Wagg, sitting at the circle, trying to pick off the intercept. But she leaves Peterson exposed with 2-on-1, and Wilson makes her pay.
Australia by 6. Clark restarts.
Well, she wasn't going to throw to Connie Francis because she was literally strolling back to the top of the circle, back to ball.
Contact Jamaica.
Clark trying to wrestle it out of the hands of Wilson, even after she had it. And Wilson answers the best possible way.
And that's 11 from 12 for Vicky Wilson in this second quarter alone. That's fairly punishing for the Jamaicans. O'Donnell just delaying that feed, seeing if she could give them closer position. They find it now with Wagg.
Held his space well. Got back to take it, and 30-22.
Wagg down quickly in defence, working the transverse line, and she gets the touch.
They struggled a number of times from the centre pass, Jamaica. There are not enough options coming forward.
Now, it contrasts the Australian centre pass, which has a very definite first offer, then a backup offer. In Jamaica, sometimes you'll look at someone and they're not interested at all in giving the offer.
Australia by 7. Wagg, Wilson. Jamaican defenders looking to block Wagg's passage to the circle. They find Wilson, though. So the quarter's got away from Jamaica a little in the last 5 minutes. Filkey got a touch on it for Kenny. Wagg. Harvey, good use of the width of the court, and Wilson tried to change her mind when the ball had left her hand. As it was leaving. Marva Lindsay. Now Watson back Back to Lindsay. Francis. Up it goes. In the middle, but too tall.
Well, Patricia McDonald not steadying herself and not balancing before she took the shot, and that was a crucial one for them. They really need to get back into the game.
Just wonder if she plays basketball 10 months of the year, that has an influence on whether she feels pressure to take the shot.
Well, for a player of her experience, that was a very inexperienced thing to do.
Wilson. Inside the last minute. And the lead is 10. Joyce Brown making plenty of noise from the bench.
Asking the team to hold up this play for Jamaica. Jamaica are doing it themselves.
And half-time blown by Colleen Bond. Maureen Hall applauding, but has to be worried by the scoreline. Australia, with discipline, steadied in the second half of that second quarter and eased it out to 33-23, Anne.
Yes, I thought Filkey and Harvey very strong in picking off the intercepts. And Kenny and O'Donnell adjusted to the bodies and got the runs onto the circle, but Wilson just immaculate, 13 from 14. That's an outstanding effort from the Australian shooter.
So Australia outscoring Jamaica in that second quarter, 19 goals to 10. And half-time at the Superdrome, 33-23. Back with the second half in just a moment. Maureen Hall, Jamaican coach. Would have been pleased with the first quarter, but not so much the second. And we see Australia leading by 10, and their goal percentage 86%. So Wag and Wilson doing the job, and Australia leading in intercepts too, Anne.
Yes, that's an outstanding shooting percentage for top-level international netball, particularly Wilson's. She's taken the workload in goals with 13 from 14, so that's great work from her. And yes, the intercepts favouring Australia as well, and most of those through the hands of Harvey and Filkey.
Joyce Brown has opted to put Carissa Dalwood in. Let's listen in.
We've taken this game at the moment, now control it. Whatever's happened to half-time, that scores in the box.
To acknowledge the continuing support of the Australian Sports Commission for their continued funding of our high-profile sport, and also the
Joyce Brown asking your players to have the first 5 minutes of this third quarter very steady and to forget what's happened to date. Pretty standard in sport. Set your focus on the quarter that's about to be.
So Dalwood's on for Shelley O'Donnell in the centre role. And changing the centres over is a choice that Joyce Brown often makes, likes the fresh legs in the role that is the most demanding in terms of running. So there's Dalwood.
Also, Australia having great depth in the lineup, and she'd want to get as many capable players involved in the series as she can.
Wilson. And 34-23. Just looking at the Jamaican lineup, we've got Marva Lindsay at wing attack now. Francis still at goal attack. McDonald obviously still at shooter. Clark at centre.
And Andrea Watson's, who replaced Carlene Hamilton, has moved now from goal defence across to wing defence. Oberon Peterson has come out the goal defence, and young Jennifer McDonald on as goalkeeper.
Yeah, she can play at either end of the court, Jennifer. In defence or attack. There's not much of her. As we watch Wilson put up Australia's third for the quarter, unanswered by Jamaica. Clark, Lindsay.
Centre third.
I don't think Lindsay plays a lot at wing attack, but obviously Maureen Hall feels that they need some experience there. That drops into the arms of McDonald, and contact against Devery from behind.
Watching the Jamaicans the other day at training, several players in the team swing from one end of the court to the other, so they fancy themselves fairly versatile there. We're not quite as used to seeing, say, Michelle Filkey put some goals in as well as intercept. Although she fancies herself that way, I know.
Well, Sue Kenny, we're used to seeing in a couple of roles in the Super League at goal attack, wing attack for Australia. And Kath Harvey, as we mentioned, coming on at wing defence. But normally for contacts, and for South Australia, she's in the defensive circle. Pulled back in by Marva Lindsay, but only for Australia.
Great pressure from Wag, Harvey, Dalwood across that transverse line.
Ball from the umpire, though, gives possession to Jamaica, and Francis.
Francis with a very low release, but a very quick release then.
Kenny through her hands. Jennifer McDonald nearly went through hers as well.
I think she got surprised to get a touch.
So we've got a McDonald at either end of the court for Jamaica, but they're not related, Jennifer and Patricia. Clark, the second attempt, looks for Lindsay. And Cricket McDonald.
Very relaxed on the take.
The difference is 11. 3 minutes gone, third quarter. Dalwood looking to pull it in. Clark picks up the scraps. Lindsay, Francis.
Contact goal shooter, penalty pass.
And that time the contact against McDonald, and she's not happy, as you can see. Using the hip, says Colleen Bond.
And Dalwood absolutely sprinting up court. Thrilled to be out there. Oh. Wilson happy to see that one drop.
Wag puts it across court. Dalwood with a great sprint and offloads well before juggling her feet around the edge of the circle.
And as we talk, she's popped in another, 39-26.
Australia.
And Australia's offered much less in the way of loose passes to Jamaica in the last 15 minutes or so. Clark to Francis.
And as you would expect, the attention paid to Patricia McDonald.
Patricia McDonald worried about a finger there that she's got strapped. Anyway, it's quickly to the other end with Wilson. Australia by 13. Watson. And Filkey read it. Lindsay. They all had a go. Francis up for McDonald, nearly tall even for her. And why didn't she shoot?
I don't know, you heard me cry.
That'll do that.
Well, that and we're back where we started. I think I come from the old school where if you're a shooter, you're expected to have a go at the post. Nice ball from Dalwood, quick hands, and what a great move to pick up Wilson.
Great hands, Dalwood, Kenny to Wilson at the post, 41-28. 5 gone, third quarter.
Great hands from Dalwood to Kenny, but the move onto Wilson is delightful.
Francis up for McDonald. Oh, strong hands and big hands. Powerful pass to Wilson. Jennifer McDonald giving away the contact.
Jamaica just a little persistent in claiming the ball, even after the umpire's intervention.
Clark back to Watson. Clark again. Lindsay, high ball up for McDonald is a good one.
Devery just caught on the ground, then running through. And up in the air, there's really no way to stop her, but Jamaica just not having enough opportunity to get to her because the defence down court from Australia is far too strong. And in attack, very few mistakes now being made by the Australian girls. Darwood to Wag. And Kenny, the hands of the magician, again finding Wilson.
Filkey, Wag unattended, Kenny.
Wilson really working the dodge in the couple of centimetres near the post.
And all her work freed up Katrina Wag. 14 the margin.
Jamaica just lacking either the concentration or the match fitness to really persist across the full game at the moment. We've seen it in patches, but not really being able to sustain it.
They've been here for 3 days in Perth, but it's one long flight, or it's several long flights, I should say, from Jamaica. They go Kingston to Florida, and they went up across to London, and then London to Singapore, Singapore to Perth, and anyway you add it up, it's a lot of time in the plane.
And the first thing they said to me was, how far is it to Melbourne?
Kenny.
Again, Wilson with that remarkable use of the dodge, really working the baseline hard, sitting back there. We don't often see her working that space as hard as she is in this match.
Clark bounces through to Francis, and that only found Devery.
Catch, free pass. Her back tip and catch, free pass. Offside, free pass.
Couldn't understand the call, sorry.
Inside.
Is it the accent or the terms?
I think she's saying there was 2 bats on the catch. It's a minor infringement for it to be a free pass.
Wilson.
The nice little step backwards on the shot, just to clear space from Jennifer McDonald, who's got a good reach and a great jump.
Well, every couple of minutes or so, Australia's adding 1 to the lead. It's out to 15 now. It was 10 at half-time.
And Jamaica, a little tunnel vision then. The focus was simply on one player, and they didn't realise, Karen Clark, that in looking that way, she'd really shifted the Australian defence from Patricia McDonald and probably could have swung it in there.
Dalwood.
Obstruction at the top of the circle. Oh, must be an offside. It was both for my money, but I'll keep my whistle away.
6 minutes to go, third quarter, and Australia in control and in possession. Kenny. Oh, Wilson. Well, Jennifer McDonald went the wrong way. Wilson stopped the move. And the feed was perfect. Kept in by Marva Lindsay. Bounced down for Francis. Up it goes for Cricket McDonald.
That's the first for Devery from front, and up she goes. It was a little low, and she wasn't going to let her have it.
Wag, Kenny, Wag.
Great work.
Well, Australia have stepped it up another gear. Shame that wasn't finished. Picked up by Peterson in the end. Back it comes, though.
And again, with Jamaica moving off the ball and backwards, and Australia so committed in their defence on a forward move, they're just leaving themselves wide open for intercepts, and Kenny's pulled in quite a few now too. Vicky Wilson, 13 straight.
The Australians have followed Joyce Brown's instructions to the letter. They've not eased off at all. Jennifer Borlase, Australian goaler, is warming up in the background. She might get a run in the final quarter, with Joyce Brown confident that the game is in the bag, this first test, as the lead gets out to 18. But it's with Connie Francis.
Penalty pass or shot.
.30-second goal for Jamaica. And Karen Clark is again troubled by the right knee. And I think she's going to go. So Karen Clark comes off. And just looking who else they named on their reserves bench. Angeline Campbell, Natalie Tucker. Because they've got to use McDonald and Watson. It's It's a while since international netball has come to Perth. And the Superdrome just about full for this one. This the same sporting complex that was used for the 91 World Swimming Championships. Wasn't too much swimming in here, of course.
Okay, we have a spare MILO sports bag, unless anyone
So they're using their full 2 minutes, Jamaica.
these girls in the eastern stand,
And
up there in the
just
yellow.
wait to see who pulls on the centre bib.
Everyone else, we have a spare MILO sports bag. Come on, girls, we want to hear it.
Well, the decision's pretty well screened there by Patricia McDonald and Jennifer McDonald. Hard to see who's getting the nod. Maureen Hall, the coach, and Martha Lindsay really taking their time and consulting Connie Francis. You can see they're really consulting their other senior member.
Right, lift your players into your areas. Now, righto, back on court.
So Colleen Bond, umpire from New Zealand, calling the Jamaicans
Who's
back
being
on court.
replaced? Is she being replaced or not?
Wants to know who the replacement is. Their
Are you
time is
changing
up. Are you
players?
changing or not? Out on court, she says.
Righto, back on court or you have to stay off. Righto.
Well, Clark is pulling on
We'll start the game.
a wing defence bib.
We've had 2 minutes and you should have changed. No, we can't.
Connie Francis now trying for a timeout for herself so that she'd like to have a 4-minute one, but they have to restart the game before they can do that. And Colleen Bond really doesn't want to have any of it. She's ready to restart now. We've only got Jamaica dawdling back to their spots. Martha Lindsay will have to go down as the most versatile player here in this series. She's moved from wing defence to wing attacker now to goalkeeper. So have a go at reshuffling that lineup, Steve.
Patricia McDonald's still a goal shooter. Connie Francis goal attack. Wing attack now, I think, is Andrea Watson. And Clark's gone back to wing defence from centre, so whatever was troubling her with her right knee, she's okay. The new player is the centre, and Angeline Campbell, we think. And what have they done now?
Well, I think they're calling the other timeout that they wanted to try and extend their time, but the umpires won't be impressed with this.
So it's been called again, and
I seriously have lost count. How many people would we have had call for an injury in this game? I think we're up to our 4th.
Yep. 3 subs they can have?
Only have 3 subs, but we've had several calls where no substitutions been made.
Positional change doesn't count as a sub.
No.
But, they've put on
they've had
Watson, McDonald.
They've had 2 interchanges now.
And a third, I think, if Tucker's on, because McDonald's come on, Watson's come on. So they can't use any more.
All they can do now is reshuffle or call timeouts for those on court.
Anyway, Australia in possession at 49-32. The lead 17, 4 minutes left in the quarter.
That was a very close defence on Wilson's shot. And all those disruptions will test Australia's concentration, but a comfortable lead.
Kenny.
Inside, free pass, Australia. Free pass, Australia inside the circle.
Wilson. Dalwood. And
great
Wag.
work from Dalwood.
Australia.
Australia's ball, says Brenda Prince. And Australia hits 50. On the tour to the West Indies last year, and Australia played 2 tests. The results were 75-43 in the first. The second one much closer, 57-48.
Contact, penalty pass or shot.
And that without 2 or 3 of the players who started tonight, including Marva Lindsay and Cricket McDonald. And it'd be my guess that they would improve across the series, Anne.
Oh, certainly. I think we saw that in 1991, and there'll be no doubt that they will build across the series. And you've got to remember that both teams are going to the World Games in a matter of a week or 2, so it's important for both of them to see progress across the series.
Filkey with a restart. Kenny. Wilson
Good disguise by Wilson. Looks to Darwood, offloaded to Kenny. Australia able to pick up more vision in what they're doing and able to disguise the passes better.
Good test of concentration this for Australia with so many breaks in play.
Great rebound from Martha Lindsay. Great standing jump.
Clark. And one of their options was shut down there when Watson hit the floor, which is up again quickly to take it now.
Jamaica.
Possession with Jamaica. And Peterson to take it.
Devry working. No need to work. Harvey pulled in a wonderful intercept.
Filkey. Darwood. And Harvey. Wag to Kenny.
Kenny wanted to offload to Wag, but Wag not looking. She was content with the drive to the circle. Wilson now works the ball.
Obstruction, so Wag gets to retake it. Wasn't the best shot, I'm afraid. Peterson with the rebound. Lindsay. Clark. Watson. Francis. It's hard work and
Great
breaks
work.
down.
Great work, Filkey.
The contact is against Watson. Devry takes it quickly. Filkey to Kenny.
The last few minutes have been played at a frantic pace. There's only under a minute left in this quarter. And the message going out from the Australian bench that there's less than a minute and let's contain the Jamaicans. Well read, Carissa Darwood.
Over there.
It's against Australia, so Jamaican possession. Clark. Francis leads out. Decides not to put the high ball up for McDonald and gets the return pass herself.
McDonald's hands letting her down. She was first to the ball, but the hands not as good as the Australians.
A lot of obstructions and contacts now coming against the Jamaican defenders as perhaps they run a little out of puff, and as the scoreboard looks less and less in their favour. I don't think the last goal counted. The time was blown just before that one dropped, so 51-33 it stays, and Australia did well to keep their concentration there, Anne.
Yes, the last couple of minutes, absolutely frantic. You'd think there was only a goal in this game, and you'd think it was the last quarter the way they played at home. But certainly a very disrupted quarter and a great test of concentration for the Australians.
18-10, the Australians won that quarter, and they go to the last leading 51-33. Joyce Brown talking with the captain there, Michelle Filkey.
Okay, girls, let's do it. Let's start the way down the eastern stand and go around the northern stand.
Harvey,
Let's see how you go.
who's done nothing wrong in what was a surprise start for her.
Yeah, she's had a great outing for Australia and really enjoyed some wonderful intercepts and been very constructive in the attacking drive for Australia as well. Very fast player, a great deal of attacking flair. And I think, if anything, a couple of them have upstaged the Jamaicans in terms of entertaining the crowd.
And Superdrome crowd trying to get the wave going. Not doing a bad job either.
I seem a happy mob.
Just wonder...
Steve, you ready? Sit down.
What Maureen Hall, who's taking a seat now, can say to the girls to recapture that form of late in the first quarter. But it wasn't so much what Jamaica were doing as some mistakes coming from Australia, and she'll just have to hope that Australia makes a few in the last.
Yes, Australia's rhythm was broken, and I guess that's why we saw Jamaica benefit. But it's very difficult for Jamaica with so many disruptions and changes in their combination to really get a rhythm flowing. And Australia continuing on their winning way with statistics. Vicky Wilson in particular, 15 from 17. What a mighty match the Queensland shooter has had. She certainly is Australia's #1. Katrina Wagg dropping down to 3 from 8, but really keeping the workload up, particularly in defence and in that attacking combination. 100% for Cricket McDonald, for Patricia McDonald with 6 from 6, and Connie Francis fairly accurate too with 4 from 6. But they'll need to do something special if they're going to rob Australia of this match.
Only 12 shots up from Jamaica compared to 25 for Australia. Tells you why they were just about outscored 2-1. And ball lays is on for Katrina Wagg, whose shooting stats did fall away in that third quarter, but was doing a great job leading out, feeding Wilson. McDonald. Kenny. Wilson.
Wilson's sitting much further back than we often see her in the Australian format. Again, I stress, working the base and staying in close range of the post, letting the Jamaicans sit up high in front and letting the ball run down onto her.
Jamaica with just under 14 minutes to try and knock a hole in this sizable lead Australia has established over the second and third quarters. Filkey.
Well read, Marva Lindsay, in the backup from Karen Clark.
Francis. Francis again looking for McDonald. Strong hands needed there between Devery and Filkey. And they've started the last quarter well. Angeline Campbell, the centre pass. Francis.
Quick hands from Darwood.
McDonald again. So 4-2 they've outscored Australia at the start of this quarter. Ball lays. Dalwood.
They're not giving up, that's for sure. Bad fall for Susie Kenny then.
Time.
Tripping over Karen Clark.
Contact on defence.
And Sue Kenny won't have too sweet of memories of
All right, play on.
the meeting in Sydney 2 years ago. It was a bone in a foot she broke.
Yes. Yes, no fun watching a World Championship final from the sideline, but she certainly played an integral part up until that injury.
Toss up between Francis and Dalwood.
Connie Francis deciding that might have been the only way she'll get to a toss-up.
Dalwood on her own. Ball lays, quick hands. Wilson.
Ball lays getting around the body.
Australia back to a lead of 18.
Devery puts it into play. Filkey. And Darwood and Borlase slotting into the lineup well. Quick hands from her. Eventually finds Wilson.
And it's Wilson again at the post. And I think both shooters will be out of play. Defenders, sorry, will be out of play. They are 56-37. Looking for Australia's highest total against Jamaica. It was 70-odd. 52, 64. No, 75 last year, actually, in Jamaica, in Kingston, in the first test. I don't think Australia will get near that, but they're certainly going to rack up a good confidence-boosting win in this first test.
Well, the work rate has been kept up by the Australians. They certainly won't lessen up as this game runs home.
Dalwood. Wilson.
Great ball from Wilson.
Lindsay to Peterson and back. They're struggling just to get it out of their own defensive third. Clark, Campbell, and Francis with Harvey in attendance against Harvey.
Devry working off McDonald, giving herself some room to get up, feet moving well.
Francis. And took it well after shaking off Filkey. 10 and a bit minutes to go. 57-39, Kenny. Ball lays. Jumps in. Nice timing on the footwork. Set her up there. Australia looking for a lead of 20.
Borlase certainly hasn't taken her time to settle in. She's put up 3 straight. The workload in defence has been impressive. The hands have been good, so it's a hard way to come into a game.
Knowing that Cricket McDonald, once she gets the ball, is just about undefendable, and Australia, knowing they had to make the intercepts further up court, have really responded to what was needed in that area.
Yes, certainly. I think one of the highlights of the game has undoubtedly been Australia's full court defence.
Watson. And through to Francis now. Campbell falls, can't take the pass. Is that a contact against Dalwood?
It was an accidental trip, but it'll just become a throw-in. Devry waiting for someone to come onto the ball. They're a little slow giving her an offer.
And Clark and Filkey collect each other. The ruling made in Filkey's favour, so she gets to Dalwood. Kenny.
Wilson tries to work the back line then, but not room for her.
There's no slackening off in the pace from the Australians as we hit the last 8 minutes. They are fit.
Very
McDonald.
fit, very committed.
Jamaica's throw. Francis.
Play.
Watson and back.
In Australia. Play.
Maureen Hall. I'm sure she's been left with plenty to ponder by this Australian performance. Touch on it from Campbell.
At the top.
Had to run through the shooting circle, though, to get anywhere near it. That was great approach play from Australia.
Ball lays. And 60. Filkey, it's a ball lays.
Contact wing defence, penalty pass.
Australia don't muck around with a retake and a restart. And after a bright start to the last quarter, the Jamaicans have slowed a little. The margin now in this quarter is 10-7 to Australia. So at this stage, Australia's won every quarter. The first was the closest, 14-13. Wilson, Dalwood, ball lays. Wilson happy to shoot from there. And the rebound pulled in by Lindsay. Watson. Francis up for McDonald. Pretty flat shot when she shoots from wide out.
Yeah, she was really falling away from that shot, off balance. Quick release, though, from Francis to McDonald. As soon as she took it, it was put up into the air.
Wilson. Marva Lindsay, the defender, can't stop that. 21 now the lead. 6 minutes to go. Campbell to Watson. Wilson, Dalwood, and ball lays. Wants to work it with Kenny. Clark a little clumsy. Oh, that's a nice move from the Australian attackers.
No, the front foot.
Harvey picks it up. Wilson on the drive from the circle, shakes it. Picks up Dalwood. And the high ball over to Borlase on the base. Quick hands, Kenny. And beautiful hands from Wilson to Borlase to finish.
And Wilson's put in another, 64-41. But the judges have ruled it's an Australian defender who's the player of the match, Michelle Filkey, the captain. Just had the note handed to us. She wins the $1,000. And she's certainly led by example here. Turned over a number of possessions. And to
Contact goal attack.
shut down Cricket McDonald is no easy task.
Another interceptor, Michelle Filkey giving Australia another chance. Kenny setting up Wilson.
That's goal number 65. Might get near 70. Won't get 75, which is, as we mentioned, the highest score Australia's put against Jamaica.
But you know they'll be trying. That was a little ambitious.
Peterson quickly fed out from Watson. A foot on it from Harvey.
Harvey throwing everything at it, literally. She's had a fine game for Australia. Really exciting player.
She doesn't want to make it easy for Simone McInnes to come back into the team. Simone would love to play in Melbourne, of course, for the second test on Saturday night. Simone, a Victorian. Got players from 4 states represented out there for Australia. Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria and South Australia. Although Shelley O'Donnell, the sole Victorian, is she was replaced at half-time by Dalwood. Kenny.
Goal shooter pushing back.
Clark, Campbell, Watson. Francis. Needed some help. Up came Watson. Francis. McDonald with a rebound. Hasn't taken enough of those, really, Anne.
No, she's not been strong in the air and really not used any elevation to get up there. Just relied on reach.
No, Australia.
Charmaine Aldridge was in the centre of that trio on the Jamaican bench. All A's. And the starting 7 probably did the best job. And late in the first quarter, which of their combinations do you think they might start with in Melbourne?
Oh, I agree with you. I think they have to look to the experience of that starting 7. You can't really see any combinational change in shooting. And I agree. Best lineup on court was their beginning one.
Carleen Hamilton with a knee injury at goal defence had to come off. So they'll hope she's right for Melbourne, but it's only a couple of days till the next test.
And as you said that, Steve, all the people on this side of the stadium leaned back when Wilson let that ball go. It had so much pace on it.
2 minutes left. Australia 67, Jamaica 44. Over 110 goals scored in the game. You can't complain about the action. Dalwood to Kenny.
Well, she held that one up for a while and telegraphed the release, but contact against Jamaica's wing attack.
And Harvey wasn't happy about it. She pulled away after getting a little smack on the neck. Wilson. .23 the lead for Australia. Under a minute and a half left now. Campbell feeds Francis. Filkey too close.
Inside. Inside.
Up it goes to McDonald. And not much Devery could do about it. Nice shot. Patricia McDonald, perhaps the longest of the night. Kenny, Dalwood. And it rings out for the rebound for Peterson.
Contact with defence.
And could have been let go. Management played, pull back. Peterson looking for Francis. Who's quickest to it? What a toss-up, yes, says Brenda Prince. It's Kenny and Watson. And Watson. Clark. So dying seconds of the game. A game which Australia took a fair while to take control of, but late in the second quarter and into the third, their discipline and fitness helped them take control. And finally time is blown. And the Perth crowd at the Superdome has certainly enjoyed top-class netball from the teams ranked 1 and 3 in the world. 68-47 Australia. So the last quarter only won 17-14 by Australia, so the Jamaicans came home pretty well, but the damage done in the second and the third. And a few things to work on for the Jamaicans in the next couple of days before they head to the Glass House in Melbourne. Australia recording the victory that was expected. First quarter was a great contest though, and as we mentioned, player of the match, Michelle Filkey, she's now ready to talk to Anne Sargent.
Thanks, Steve. Well, Michelle, congratulations on 2 counts. It's your shout, your player of the match, so I'll expect one after the game. But on the performance for the Australian team, brilliant effort, well done.
Thank you, Annie. Yeah, we were really pleased with tonight. We started very strongly and then allowed them to contest us a bit in the first quarter, but I felt that our pressure all over the court in defence particularly made it easy for us on Patricia, and the credit goes to the whole team for that.
Well, that's the thing I thought was outstanding from the line, the effort down court in defence. Obviously something you've worked on hard.
We knew that if we had to cut Patricia out, that we needed to put pressure on from our goalers. We did, and we're just wrapped to get this one out of the way and looking forward very much to Melbourne.
What do you think allowed Jamaica to get back into the game at the end of that first quarter?
I think that we probably laxed a little in our down-court defence. We made a few very unforced errors in attack, and I think that's just the adrenaline rushing, being the first test. But we settled very quickly and just played our own game from there.
A bit of a change at the back of the attack formation too. Vicky Wilson sitting back on the base, really using the dodge and working close to the post.
Vicky's very strong under the post, and we knew we had to have her as a focal point under there. And Katrina's speed and her height outside the circle gave us lots of options to do that. And Vicky's shooting was brilliant tonight and played a very good game.
How much more do you think we'll see from the Jamaican lineup?
Oh, they'll come back out firing again. This will fire them up, and they could come out with anything in Melbourne.
Well, it was an outstanding performance for Australia. Congratulations, and on player of the match, Michelle.
Thanks, Anne.
Thank you all. Steve, it's back to you. A very happy Michelle Filkey.
I'll hope to get in on that shout. And the crowd starting to leave the Superdome well satisfied, I'm sure, with Australia's performance here. Nervous for only a few moments in the first quarter. A very polished and professional victory in the end, but more good things to come from Jamaica, I'm sure. They always show in the past that they'll come back at you across the series, and the next test is in Melbourne on ABC TV Saturday night, 11 p.m, exclusive to ABC TV at the Glass House, and the third test in Sydney at the